Salutations, Utopians. Hope all is well in your world. Uh, Little sad tonight. Even though the Minnesota Timberwolves advanced, glad to see the young career of Anthony Edwards continue to turn the next page into more success and a better story. Uh, and saga continues. Julius Randle getting everything that he deserves, going to a better franchise, better equipped franchise for what he brings to the table. Um, but tonight, in this particular video, I actually want to talk about his former team, the New York Knicks, and the series and war that they got going on right now with the Boston Celtics. We are in a very unusual situation. First and foremost, get well soon. Jayson Tatum, highest paid player in the league. Uh, Such a decorated resume already, not even close to 30. And now he might be very much out for at least a year. His father today disclosed that he's expecting 8 to 9 months, but even on a return, getting comfortable with respect to just movements and trusting your body. It's a long journey. He's a guy who really does take good care of himself, it appears, and he really does take the gym serious. He's not just one of those guys who plays basketball but doesn't hit the weight room or anything like. He's the total package, and we all know he has elite character, and so we can trust that this isn't the last we've seen of him if it's up to him. Um, but it's just amazing to me. I just feel like, and I was gonna wait to unpack all this as far as my real true evaluation. Speaking of Randall, the Knicks, Karl Towns, but I think right now is the most appropriate time rather than potentially waiting for whether if they get eliminated, that being if they being the Knicks. Because quite frankly, they've made it this far, and they have just as good a chance as anyone to win the championship, um, despite tonight's shortcoming um, slash setback. First and foremost, I hear a lot of discourse about the Celtics almost borderline being an underdog. Two things can be true. It's unfortunate that Jayson Tatum is injured, and also nothing changes in terms of the expectations for the Boston Celtics, a team that is in the third apron. Um, this feels like the Luka situation where there's some type of marketing going on that supersedes the actual game itself. And there needs to be a voice of reason in a time like this. Ladies and gentlemen, Jayson Tatum makes around $315 million. As I said earlier, he is the most well-paid player in the league. He is first, his contract. Number two, second is Jaylen Brown. I read conflicting reports. One said 286, another one said 300 M's, but he's paid more than Shai Gilgeous and Nikola Jokic. Two people I can tell you off bat, he is not better than. He won Finals MVP. He's been to the Olympics, and almost making 3 times than his opponent, who's doing 10 times more, Jalen Brunson, who's around 100 M's. And it might sound like I'm piling on Jaylen Brown, but it's really a respect thing and an expectation level that I have of him. Why I'm doing this. There was this big campaign over the summer about how he was unjustly being done. And the universe has a funny way of working itself out. I was telling people how Jimmy years ago was taking this B team, the bottom half of the roster, against the Wolves starting team when Karl Towns was there, to make a point to show a demonstration that he needed to be paid and showing his value. And years later, Curry is injured and he's forced to run with the reserves again. Steve Kerr got to the point where he had to use 14 different players, which was a record, I believe, for a playoff game in terms of bench rotation. Fast forward, same kind of irony going on right now with Jaylen Brown. He's out here saying, "Hey, I'm supposed to be on that Olympic team." Well, guess what? Here you go, prove it. And to be quite frank, in tonight's game, Derek White was the one who set the table. He's the one who set it off in times of uncertainty. He's the one who kicked down the door first and went down that hill with no guarantees or assurance that it was going to be safe and yelled clear. Peyton Pritchard was second. Then eventually, Jaylen Brown definitely stepped up to the plate. But now you got everything you've asked for. This is a third apron team. You have two front court players that are formerly of the Knicks, and Porzingis, who's right now not in the best condition. Hope all is well. No one knows quite clearly what exactly is enabling him to be able to perform to the level that is expected of him. And then Luke Cornett, who tonight had 7 blocks. This is a guy who really made it, came up out the mud, was on the Westchester Knicks, really was on their G League affiliate team, really had to earn his spot, earn his way, and finished third all time in blocks from a reserve. You got Al Horford, who to me is worthy of being considered a Hall of Famer. Might even be first on some people's books. When you look at the block ranking all time, I think he's in the top 15 in that, and then he's also closing in on that in playoffs, and then also 3-pointers. I think he's closing in on something egregious that you'd be surprised about. He's made a lot of threes. He's on an all-times ranking radar. Think at least top 25, which is amazing considering the era he came into the league, the style of play he was, and what he's evolved and metamorphed himself into. But this narration that, like, because they lost Tatum, the Celtics are still expected to go to the finals, or the season was an utter fail. Period. You swept the Pacers last year. The Knicks, and I'll unpack the Karl Towns trade, because one thing I had to do was do some deep soul searching when I was like, how can I understand the Luka trade and not see all sides? Because obviously I was a little bit recency biased. I was blinded from my passion for the Knicks all the years. But when you really think about it, and I've been wrong in the past, don't get me wrong. DiVincenzo was a guy who I was not fond of when they paid $50 million. Now I'm never going to get over it that he's wearing another uniform, and he played phenomenal tonight as well. And the Knicks literally disassembled their roster, I believe. One of the root causes of them moving off of Randall. Randall is 30, 31, but he's an old 31. He's been around since Kobe. And he's been breaking down the last couple years, even though historically he's been an 82-game kind of guy. In every game he had like 20 and 10. He was a guaranteed to count 20 and 10 kind of guy. And the Knicks are looking at the Celtics and how much they're willing to spend, and it's like being at a car auction. You're like, I just can't bid any higher. And so they're like, okay, we got to make sure we don't go over the apron. Leon represents Karl. He negotiated that deal. Keep it in-house, the money, whatever. And Julius is on a contract, is on an expiring deal. Let's go ahead and send him somewhere like they did for Shumpert and JR to Cleveland. Let's go and send him somewhere he can thrive. We'll take Karl Towns back. And even though Karl Towns is 29, 30, he plays a particular brand of basketball that has more sustainability. Speaking of a Luke Cornett, Al Horford, even in his later years, because he's not really an above the rim kind of guy, that is. So like even in his later years, you can still count on him to shoot that spot up three, which he's able to shoot out of the zone. His range is beyond the zone, which is one of the ways they were able to get past Detroit. And let me tell you something, the Knicks are overachieving because really they didn't really beat the Pistons in my eyes. So them to get to the second round and get two victories out of the Celtics, like, and now that the Cooper Flag situation has happened, let me give you another reason why the trade made sense. If you know you're not going to get past Boston, who's in the process of selling their team, who's already shooting the Last Dance documentary at the trade deadline, after the All-Star break, let's get a guy who's a little bit younger, who plays a little bit more safer brand of ball, a little bit more easier on the locker room, because I'm not gonna say this Villanova connection. These guys are not soft, but they're just a little bit more reserved and mild mannered. Jalen Brunson's not soft. I'm not calling OG. I'm not calling none of them. When I say that, a lot of times this team is missing something. It's not toughness. It's just a certain continuity, chemistry, and a little bit more brass and aggressiveness front, which is why defense, you notice the two guys who left, two spicy people left off that roster was DiVincenzo and Randall. They're a little more in your face, like Anthony Edwards, who does a lot of barking, as you can see. It's just more of a natural fit, culture kind of thing. The Knicks are trying to be like the San Antonio Spurs. The 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 Wolves are, even though they're more talented, are more like the Grizzlies when they had Dylan Brooks, the old school teams. Like, think of your teams that were the most talked, that talked the most trash. That's what you want to comp them to. More old school kind of squad. That's why it's kind of ironic you hear Anthony Edwards make comments about the old school, because it's like you're really more of a throwback player. That's why you're thriving so much in this generation, because you're not really conducting yourself like a dude who's from this era, right? Just being quite frank, you can tell him, LeBron. That's why LeBron's able to. I'm just being real. It's a different breed of dog when you come from a certain environment, and so and it pushes you to the front of the pack. That's why I firmly believe to this day John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Dwight, because they're too good. They'll double these fools easy, even at their age, and it's a bad look on the league. DeAndre Jordan has a limited skill set, so he can stick around, and he's friendly, and he's so cool. And same thing with Drummond. They just cool. They cool, But them guys want to be old school. They want to win. They want to, you know what I mean. They're competitive. They do that, and so they don't fit in today's league. And so the Knicks are looking at that championship window the Celtics had, and they're like, we're wasting his time. He's going to be grumpy. He's got to share the ball. He's like the fourth guy in this offense. He could easily go anywhere from 1 to 4th option. We know he wants the ball. He's had his outbursts. Let's go ahead and move up off him. We know that we need to kind of, it's almost, I don't want to sound like this, but like almost like you got to wait out this run by the Celtics, who just sold their team, who are in the midst of selling their team for the most amount of money any North American team has ever gone for in the history of pro sports and business. The last one was the Commanders at $6.05 billion. They went for 6.1 from what I read. Again, don't quote me exactly on figures. These search engines are really falling off. I'm having real difficulty with the search engines lately. But if you're the Knicks, let's be real. You're not gonna get past that. Business first. And so the crazy part is the Knicks were getting dubbed in those first 2 games when they made those rallies. Celtics kind of proverbial, and I hate using this metaphor, but like kind of got comfortable. I won't say the other thing I want to say, but kind of got comfortable. And they're settling for threes and just jacking, and they let them back in the game. But truth be told, the irony and the most painful thing about this whole thing is that the Celtics, had they handled business, Tatum probably wouldn't have even been on the floor. Painful, gruesome reality. Because I think that injury happened in a game 4. So it could have been an easy four-game sweep, gentleman's sweep. And even right now in their form, I believe in my heart of hearts, the Celtics are slightly better because Karl Towns is not really a guy who's going to catch you out of triple threat and post you up and do all these. His 3-point shoot, he's kind of a he makes himself guardable. He's kind of stationary. He's not. It's not that he's not capable, but he's more favored into the spot up role. So it's like as long as you're within vicinity, he can be contained. Drew Holiday was the second most consistent player on Team USA. Derek White played, if not more, the same amount of minutes that Tatum did. And Jaylen Brown is Jaylen Brown, Mr. 300 M's guy, 286. So the expectation should still be that the Celtics are going to the finals. Anything short of that is an utter failure. The Knicks have overachieved, on the other hand. I don't know how they got out of Detroit, but they did. I don't know how the Celtics fell so hard at the wheel with the 2 games that they allowed them to sneak. But they were down 20 in those games. This notion that the Knicks are disappointing, they're not disappointing anyone. They are doing a great job in this playoff run, considering what I believe is really supposed to be. But Jaylen Brown, I'm not getting my. Okay, well here you go, and you scored 25 tonight. But Luke Cornett had almost a triple double. Derek White was unconscionable in that first quarter, 14 points. Peyton Pritchard. So when you unpack all this, it's like considering this roster is why the Knicks had to tap out financially and end the faucet and dismantle a great team, Hartenstein, DiVincenzo, Randall, because they just simply couldn't keep up financially. No time for tears now. Sam Hauser would be starting on half these teams in the league, especially when you account for how valuable shooting is, floor spacing, and he's making 50 M's. Respectable 3-man rotation on the front line. I mean, who's the underdog? Nothing stops. You're supposed to get past the Knicks. You're supposed to get past Indiana, who you swept. Now, it might not be in 4, but 6 is reasonable. One could argue that's why it was so fascinating to watch Tatum and Brown, because it was 300 mil. It's like, well, one of them has the ball in their hand. The other one is essentially just standing around, right? Directing traffic, trying to create flow, I guess, spacing. But they both do the same thing, even though both of them can, floor space. I think Brown is now moved into 18th all-time in playoff three-pointers made, and Tatum is around 14. So they can shoot. Those guys can shoot. And so that's the one good thing. But still, when one has the ball, the other one doesn't. Now, if anything, they become more effective, and the shooters are more in rhythm because they can expect more touches, right? And Drew Holiday is needed more because obviously he's not ambidextrous, Jaylen Brown. That's the big knock on him, similar to Julius Randle when he was with the Knicks. Can't be a number 1 because he doesn't have no right hand. Jaylen Brown, conversely, has no left, they were saying. But to whom much is given, as much is expected. And if you're at 300 M's, then you know what time it is. Let's put that narrative to bed also. Celtics better be in the final. They don't got to win the chip, but to justify what this payroll is and not to dismantle it, they're going to have to get to the finals. Losing to the Pacers is not going to be okay either. Losing to the Knicks damn sure is not okay. You're still in the upper tier, upper echelon of rosters. So let's get that very clear before this season, regardless of the outcome of this season, of this series. I'll try to do better next time, Utopians. Global. Out.